This is the beginning of turn 10 here at the Battle of Nagakute in Tenkatoitsu by Hexasim. Things have gone fairly badly wrong for Tokugawa, the blue army. They've lost the battle over here conclusively. As you can see, just the remnants of one clan left there. This clan managed to withdraw out of a dangerous position here and reform and regroup itself. These clans picked away at the stuff that was attacking them, and Tokugawa never managed to get himself organised to close in and finish these guys off. They lost the battles over here, and now instead of having a central position, he's got a surrounded position because the Aikido has managed to mobilise all his forces that were strung out along this road, and they've come through these mountain passes and are now threatening to drop in on his remaining forces with the routes to withdraw away, cut by this still quite potent force over here. So he's now in a very difficult position. We are into turn 10, which means we are at the start of fatigue turns. So turns can end with 2 chit draws now. This turn both sides only rolled 1s on for their command points, so there's very few chits in the bag. There's very little additional activity that's going to happen besides the default chits. But a very difficult position for Tokugawa. So we go through the last few turns. The victory point tallies are currently 7 to 8 in favour of Aikido, and of course Aikido controls this castle. Now the rules don't say you have to occupy it. Well, the rules say the force that occupies it gets 5 victory points. I think, in my view, the Aikido forces last occupied it and are therefore due the 5 victory points. I don't think they have to leave a unit there, or at least that's not the way I'm reading it. So that's another 5 victory points for them, in my view. So that would put them on 13-7 at the moment, which is a pretty convincing win. However, we've got still 5-6 turns of this to go, and combat can be very swingy. One good roll and you can eliminate a unit, and suddenly you can be 2-1 and everything snowballs in your favour, which is what happened down here. When you start wounding the opponents, they start getting more negative modifiers, you start getting positives, the rolls go in your favour, you wound them more, and there's a sort of death spiral. And then you're suddenly outnumbering them, and then it all swings very heavily in your favour. So combat can be very swingy, but the Tokugawa army has to be so careful here not to get itself split up and destroyed piecemeal. And I'm probably not skillful enough to avoid that, but that's just the way it goes. Here at the start of turn 12, then at Nagakute, part of Tenkatoitsu by Hexasim. We've reached this position here with the remnants of the Tokugawa army sort of trying to withdraw. They're all in defense orders with the Aikido army on this side here, and Clan J now attacking in from this side, and more attacks coming in down here, and Tokugawa himself in a very precarious position. He had wanted, when these guys were back over here and these guys were back over here, he had wanted to slip up into roughly this position and try and form the remainder of his army behind this river line. But with the chip pull, he didn't get to activate in time, and the enemy closed in on his position before he had a chance to. And now he's got one sort of unit here that may be holding a route open up here, perhaps, possibly. Yeah, really dicey, and he's got to pull off some orders changes because he's currently in regroup, which would force him to back away from these guys in ways that he really doesn't want. So yeah, he's failed to change his orders a couple of times, and with two orders bars, that's really unfortunate for him. But there you go. The only positive he's got is that he's on very good defensive terrain, as some of his other troops. Anyway, we're kind of reaching the climax here, or at least an anti-climax, because it looks to me like this Tokugawa army, now roughly outnumbered 2-1, is likely to get butchered here and should be doing all it can to run away, which is really what I've been trying to do with it. So just started turn 13 here out of 16, or what should be 16 for the full game here at Nagakute, if you play right to the end and it goes down to the wire, but this one isn't going to the wire quite clearly. Tokugawa here was the first chip pull out of the bag in turn 13, and he's in move orders, and that's allowed him to slip away from these troops up here and over here, so he's managed to pull out of the net that was closing in around him. And that's important purely because, well, firstly because he's a massive historical figure, but secondly because if Tokugawa himself is killed, the Aikida faction wins instantly. And interestingly, the reverse is not true. Aikida can be killed, and the Green Army, Aikida army, continues fighting happily. Anyway, so with Tokugawa out of the noose and just, escaping off down this path, presumably. I mean, he's not going to try and re-engage. If you look at the situation, there's troops there, troops there, loads of troops here, and then the remnants of Tokugawa's army beginning to be engaged and seriously outnumbered, and, like, as we've seen, more troops in reserve. There's just nothing left for them to do, particularly apart from wait for the inevitable. They're outnumbered, they're wounded here, they're going to be outnumbered and ganged up on, even though they've put some significant damage into this guy. It really doesn't matter. There's more queuing up to take his place. And all they've got left is this clan here and the remnants of this clan here, and they're just facing too much. There's the equivalent of that clan, and there's the equivalent of what's here, and then there's all this lot ready to come over and join in. I feel like playing out the rest of this is really flogging a dead horse. It's just confirming the inevitable. This is a handsome Aikida win. They control the battlefield. This lot are, should be running away, as Tokugawa is. And so I'm going to call it here an Aikida win. The actual victory points, if we look at the track, are 7 to the Tokugawa army, and I think 8 for Aikida, plus his 5 for holding that castle, so that would be 13-7, and they've each got a point of Bandori. This is something I've not gone into at all, but this is extra points for killing leaders, taking trophies from killing leaders, and they've each had a point of Bandori as well. So that is the final score. 13-7 plus the point of Bandori, 14-8 to the Aikida army, and they have won here at the Battle of Nagakute. This has been, really, really good fun. I love the combat system. It's nice to roll through. It's nicely unpredictable, but you can, mainly by getting superior numbers, you can fix things heavily in your favour, but it still has a nice edge of unpredictability about it. It can be beautifully decisive, where you roll up to something and just eliminate them with one dice roll as well. That's very satisfying. The movement, these orders work really, really well. I think if these were static, it would be a little bit annoying, but the fact that you've got the flexibility of these sheets as well, so that you can rock in with some orders that are guaranteed to work when you pull that clan chit, and which give you special abilities when you do so, adds another layer of happiness to the sort of command and control. It feels nicely uncontrolled without just feeling like a crap fest. There feels like there's skills and decision making to be done, and it's really nicely haphazard sometimes how it plays out on the board. You can look at things though and still calculate what your obligations are going to be if you say change to attack or change to defense, so you can kind of figure out how things are going to look, but not perfectly. And that's extremely fun, engaging, easy to play, smooth game. I like it a lot, and I don't think I've had any rules queries at all, despite it being a translation from French into English. It's a damn good translation, and although it's noticeable in places, there's nothing that's had me, moaning about it all being unclear or ambiguous, or not being able to find the answers to questions. I've pretty much found the answers to questions, and nothing's really come up that's irritated me or vexed me or frustrated me at all. So the rules are pretty good, the game system's well nailed down, and it produces a lovely flowing result. I would say my feelings on it being a bit like Musket and Pike aren't too far off. I mean, it does have that same haphazard nature, but I think I prefer it to Musket and Pike, to be quite honest. I think I find the Musket and Pike combat system, where you end up with things that there seem to be too many conditions in Musket and Pike for me to feel comfortable. Things can be disordered, and they can be, I can't remember all the terminology, but you can end up with sort of 3 different counters on it, some for its cohesion hits and some for its organisation or disorganisation and something else. This is a lot cleaner, just with these markers, and you take a guy, you add a marker and he's shaken, you flip him over and he's disorganised, you flip him over and add the marker the other way up and he's exhausted, and then you take him off the board. A nice simple 4-step degradation of these units' capabilities. It's just really good, clean design, interesting, fun to play. Liked this a lot. Going to move on to something else, probably something quite innovative in its own way.